Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Jeff Adams, President of Marathon Tours, and with me today is Denise Sauriol. Denise, I don't know if you noticed, but I put a lot of effort into a customized virtual background for us today. I've got
That
you
is
getting
very
your
impressive.
six-star, your sixth and seventh up in New York there on my right, your left, I think it is, and then we're down in Patagonia together with your Seven Continents Club finisher medal. And I even found that one of you skydiving. There's bungee jumping of you that I couldn't work into it, but it's really excited to be able to spend some time with you today. So thanks for being with us. For those of you that have not had the pleasure of traveling with or running with or meeting Denise, Denise is another member of our community who travels with us frequently, has an incredible backstory in terms of her rebirth and refocus on running, and is now giving back in a very big way. So I appreciate you being with me this afternoon and being part of this series. And I hope you're well. You in Chicago today?
I'm actually in Indiana.
Oh, Indiana.
I've been staying at my sister's since the lockdown because when I run, I don't see many people out here, so I rarely have to pull up my mask.
Well, I'm doing the same thing in Wisconsin. It's I know what you mean. You're running the trails and not seeing anybody else. Kind of nice. Yeah, a little bit of a luxury. So, your running resume, as I've had the pleasure of getting to know you, is a bit extreme in terms of over 300 races. You've done the ultras, the Ironman. What are you up to on the marathon side? I think last count I had was in the 115 range.
Yeah, well, actually, I was able to run Millennium Meadows last weekend in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So now I'm at 118 from the girl who never thought she could do one.
Yeah. So talk about your rebirth. On one of our training runs together, I got to hear the whole story, and I was just fascinated by the catalyst that has spring you into a whole different place with your career, and kind of reclaiming a passion that you had early on in life.
Yeah, I drank a lot of coffee so I could talk through fast because again, like I did my first marathon in 1994 in Chicago, and I was never a very good runner, but I've been running since the 4th grade because it doesn't require eye handball coordination. So it was the only sport that accepted me. And my older sister did the marathon in 93, and what she did and what my clients do and your clients do for people in their circle is Debbie turned the marathon into something I thought it was superhuman, and she made it human. So I did my first in 94, and it changed my life. It gave me that first dose of confidence I'd been searching for. And it also turned the I can't into what else can I do, right? And, most of us, we do our first one, say never again. And then the next thing after the pain goes away and the sense of accomplishment just like multiplies like water on gremlins. I can do it again, and I got to get faster. So I focused on getting faster. I found a coach. He got me, the first season got me into Boston, and this is actually my anniversary jacket. It's the 1999 Boston Marathon, which was also the first time I met Tom and the first time I traveled with you guys. So it's 21 years of exploring the world with you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, real quick, I focused on getting faster, and my coach found untapped talent in me, and he got me crazy fast. I did like a 4:28 for my first, and in 8 years, he got me to a 3:15. And I was just putting everything in it because it became my X. I felt like I wasn't X enough. You fill in the X, and running became my X. I would win races locally here in Chicago, and yes, I knew what I put in, I would get out. And then I totally lost sight of what the 4th grade girl found in running, like how it made me feel, the people it introduced me to, it just empowered me. And then once I found a coach and got fast, I was all about the destination, all about defining myself by my age group ranking, my PRs. If I didn't PR, I'd beat myself up. If I did, I would be proud, and poof, it would fleet. I'd So gratefully, August 16, 2009, just had my 11-year anniversary of my rebirth day. I was heading to Central Park to do the New York City half, and I got hit by a car on the way to the race, and I never made it to the race. I made it to the emergency room, but I flew on the car. I flew on the hood and shattered the windshield with my body, and I only broke 5 vertebrae. I broke them where the muscles attached, not near the spinal column. Just so many thank God moments from that day. And I mean, I was so afraid. I didn't believe my doctors. I thought I would move and paralyze myself. I just did not believe them because, again, like, you don't know all the underpinnings going on underneath your body and to shatter a windshield. So fast forward, I don't remember how much longer it was after that accident. I just know I was a little more mentally and physically stable. And that's when I thought about, there is a reason bigger than me why I survived in this state I was in. And that's where I said, I want to coach. I want to give back to running for everything it has given to me since I first laced up my pair of Pumas in 4th grade. Actually, they were my sisters, but I started coaching and I just love it. Like, I try and emulate what my coach did for us because he believes in us. He believed in us till we believed it. And that's where I tell people, you never know what else you have in you, even if it's just getting out there to do your first 5K. It changes us. And so started coaching in 2010. And again, like, just the feedback I would get from other runners and being alongside their journey when they do something they didn't think they could do, it just sticks to my soul. And my heart lights up like ET. So fast forward, 2016, let me go back. So that first finish line in 1994, Chicago, what it did, how I said it turned the can't into what else can I do? I feel like when we do things we don't think we can do in and out of sport, it like makes a deposit in like I can't find the right word yet, but like a empowerment tank or a courage tank. So the next time something comes along that you want to do, you're scared, but you're excited. Remember, you're excited. You draw from other things you did. You draw from that little courage empowerment tank. And I did. I've done 2 Ironmans and I'm deathly afraid of water. I've quit an Ironman swim. I jumped out of a plane and I jumped off the bungee in New Zealand, and I'm afraid of heights. That was heights and water. So fast forward 2016, I just got to the point where I lost my older cousin, David. It was 2015 and he was only 48 and he left his gym and had a heart attack outside the gym. 6 kids, super active and healthy. And that's when I realized today is not a guarantee. That was the first time in my life. I always knew we may not wake up in the morning, but I was like, today is not a guarantee. And I'm like sucking my soul away in corporate America. But then when I'm around my runners, I'm so high on the other runners' high. And so I thought about all the other things that I didn't think I could do, and I did them. And it's the same thing. So I decorporated in June 3rd, 2016. So I coach full time. I love it. I am so inspired by my runners during this pandemic, and even runners I'm not coaching because, again, like, no one's telling us to do this. It's different when we were in high school or grade school. We had a gym teacher telling us, but no one is like telling us to get up early, lace up, get out the door, and do something good for ourselves. And, it's not comfortable those first few miles, but I'm so inspired by anyone who's out there right now.
So you and I are seeing a lot of stories regarding people getting back to running. It's one of the few things you can do while isolating in Wisconsin or Indiana. And you've got as much experience as anybody I know with coaching first-time marathoners. First of all, what is the oldest first-time marathoner you've coached? I think I know the answer to this one.
Max, he was 81 at the time.
And I think we saw you and Max coming over the bridge in Chicago. Tom and I were out there watching, and you and Max came charging by. Now, he's gone on to run a few more since then. So you've coached 81-year-olds, you've coached 30-year-olds, and right in between.
Yeah.
So I expect that we'll see some people that will take on this challenge of running that first race. because they've gotten back to running. Maybe they're only running 2 or 3 miles right now, but what's some advice Coach Denise would give to those people?
Yeah, so normally one of the reasons I get so high around marathon season is the people that I'm coaching or the runners that are doing their marathon. They're going to inspire people in their circle. They're going to inspire volunteers, spectators on the course. So we get our next graduating class, right?
Right.
So we don't really have that right now. We don't have it as rich and powerful as it normally would be. So that's why I encourage my runners. It's like, you never know who you're inspiring during this time. And I think for anyone who's starting to run, I have a girl that I'm coaching. She hasn't run since high school, and she was just getting stir crazy with what's rightfully going on. And running is like running and walking and exercising and running, you don't need to go to a gym. You just walk outside. It's the one thing we can control, and it gives us so much back than it takes. And so this girl, Elizabeth, my friend connected us. I did a Zoom call with her. I sent her my Audible, my book. 2 weeks later, Denise, how can I get more of you? And I said, well, I'm going to be virtually coaching folks to do the marathon. Why don't you join us and do the half? She signed up. And then like 2 weeks later, no, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, she goes, Denise, I want to do a half next year. So of course it's already ingrained in my brain. And of course I'm like, you don't have to wait a whole year. But I just, like, once people rediscover running, that it isn't like gym class unless you want it to be, where, drop the hammer for a mile when you've only run once a year on that day.
Right.
People are going to see, like, it's especially during this time where we have too much time alone because we can't really interact with so much time in our head, and you go for a run and it's like you get reflection, you de-stress. They'll find there's so many benefits that I hope they keep up with it. And then, do your own do-it-yourself 5K or even 10K. But what I recommend to folks that are just getting back in is, you don't need to go all in. That's our problem a lot of times, where, we're so driven and determined. We're like, woo, 8 days a week. You got to let your body heal. So don't run every day. And even walking, walking is it's still moving forward. It's still a workout. And a lot of walkers pass runners in the marathon and at half marathon. So I'm all for walking, but there's a lot of virtual races out there, or you don't even need to pay the money, save the money and buy yourself some sweet shoes or workout clothes, or save up for a destination race next year instead of.
All right, we're going to come back to the destination in a minute, but let's go to the other extreme. Let's go to some of your clients who are not first timers, and they hit that register button. You wrote a great blog recently about this. You hit that registration for a race button. Maybe you hit 2 or 3 of them for 2020, and 2020 hasn't turned out the way you expected. Maybe a couple of those races that you registered for were bucket list destination races. What are you doing with those clients to keep them in the boat, to keep them motivated?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was maybe April or so. I saw a lot of people rightfully losing their motivation and rightfully not wanting to do a race unless it had the parade attached to it, rightfully. And I just started, on my runs, I just started reflecting, and I felt like, you know what, we don't really do this for the medals. And, we don't do this for just that second crossing a chip mat. We more so do it because, especially in the marathon, we're choosing to go to battle with ourselves somewhere along that course, right? And then the victory we have when we win against that voice that wants us to quit, like, that's why. And that's again why only 1% of the population does a marathon. And that's where I started thinking, you know what, when we look back on this time and 5 years, 10 years down the road, and you did a freaking marathon, like, that is huge. Like, and I think that percentage, like, I'm not like, I'm not a statistician, but I think it's like
It's okay.
0.001%.
Just make up a number because 79% of all statistics are made up anyway. So just,
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
So
just make
I
up a
feel
number.
like how huge is that, that during the craziest time of my life, this century, I think, there's a pandemic, there's so many things we can't control. Our life has been like put into a tornado, and you chose to do a marathon. And also like when so you're part of the 0.01%, and that's a club I'm uber proud of. And also when you hit submit on the race form, like you had a lot, you knew you were going to have to sacrifice. You knew there was going to be days where you're not going to want to run, but you were driven, committed. And also, like, if you're bundle that with running for a charity, you know what, just because the universe sent us this, all that internal drive and grit and compassion for an organization, your fundraising, that is all still there. You just have to dust it off. And I'm telling you, I did the do-it-yourself. I did the first do-it-yourself Boston on Patriots Day in April. I did Big Sur, do-it-yourself. I did Comrades, do-it-yourself. I did the 41 miler strolling gym. And I'm telling you, you go through the same experience as race day. You go through the emotional roller coaster where, you know, it's not exciting of a start corral, but you're at the start, you take off, you're like, oh, this is great. I know I can do it. You hit the halfway, you're like, oh, I just doubled my time. I maybe add 10 minutes. And then you get to the part where you hit the wall and I turn into Linda Blair. I'm like, why did I do this? I'm not even getting a medal. And then you finish and you have such a huge sense of accomplishment. So like focus on, yeah, it's just like, I've even had one of my clients, Rachel, she signed up for her first half Ironman and her first marathon this fall. And she went out and did her first half Ironman all on her own. That is huge. Like no sweet Ironman gear. It really says a lot about you guys when you do it on your own without, you know, the fun. That's the added bonus, but it's really how we feel. After again, no one's telling us to do this from the beginning, but it's really what it does for us on the inside. You know, when we pass away, we're in our last moments, last weeks, we're not going to think about what age grouping we had. We're going to think of what gifts running gave us, you know? Oh, I'm so excited.
And I knew I needed a little pick-me-up today. I was out running in the rain this morning, you know, that's passing through right now. And maybe we should have done this call before that training.
Anytime I'm here.
I would have done a few more miles.
Yeah.
So I've also heard from a lot of people in our community, especially those that travel with marathon tours to international destinations. They're exploring all 7 continents, one stride at a time with us. How important it is to have that next race on the calendar, that bucket list destination booked, you know, to keep them motivated now. You've been with us last year. You were kind to spend some time at the pre-race dinner in Tokyo. We had some personalized copies of your book, You, Me, or Me, You, and 26.2. And so we handed that out. People loved that. And then we presented with the 7 Continents Club medal to you in Patagonia. And we had a couple other stops in between. What's on your, Comrades on the wish list?
Comrades was in the middle of those 2.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, because I knew you and I crossed over. I went to Cape Town right after Patagonia, and you had just been there. So what's on the wish list for next year when things begin to normalize again?
Yeah, so I actually, you know, I'm all about doing things you don't think you can do, and it's part of the human experience to see what else our body and mind is capable of. And when we don't do that, we're shortchanging ourselves. So yeah, I signed up for my first 200 miler January 1st next year. And honestly, if it doesn't take place, it's in Arizona where the White Sox and the Dodgers have spring training. It's just a 1 mile loop. And if it doesn't take place, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to do it yourself because I owe it to myself. I signed up to see if I can do it. And I'm still going to do it. Yeah. And I really, go ahead.
No, you're putting in some serious training then if you're ramping up for that.
Yeah, I actually hired a coach. I haven't had a coach since before my accident. Yeah. And of course I want to go back to Comrades again for next year. And I'm
That's
actually
on my
looking
wish
at one.
list too.
Pardon?
That's on my bucket list also. Really enjoyed
Yeah,
South Africa. The running community down there was some of the best I've experienced in the world in terms of just the running IQ out there during the race, and Comrades has got to be.
yeah, it's like our Boston, but it makes Boston look like a 5K, you know, because there's so much history and prestige with Boston. I felt like it was the same thing with Comrades. I have chills on. I should have wore running tights, but I have chills. Like there's nothing like Comrades. And it's an honor to run also. Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm also looking at I really want to go back to Patagonia and Queenstown. Those were two of my favorites. Yeah.
Well, but you know and that's the third thing I've heard in talking to a lot of the folks in our community is they're so glad that they have those to look back on. You know, I've seen a few folks posting each day's pictures from a year ago, and you know, when I've talked to them, they said, "You know, I'm glad I didn't have to play. Well, what if I had gone? I went. I
Yeah.
experienced it. I've got the pictures, and that's helping keeping me motivated right now. Is the fact that I didn't put that off."
Yeah, and again, today isn't a guarantee. And the thing with like these racecations, it really isn't about the race. It's about what you see and the people you meet that have the same two passions, running, taking care of themselves, and that self-drive, and also getting as many passport stamps as you can. Right?
I know from so many of our past runs together, we had a great one out through just, I'm not sure where we went because we were so busy talking. You and I
Yeah.
keep talking for another couple hours. I think probably what we'll do is we'll save that for the sequel, and then we'll have a sequel to the sequel. But
Yeah.
you know, on behalf of Marathon Tours and the broader running community that you and I are part of, sincere thank you. I mean, the book, I cherish that. The folks that participated in your talk in Tokyo last year and the personalized copy of the book, we received so much positive feedback. So you're giving back there, the coaching, just your presence at the races and on the trips. And I didn't even mention the fact that you give back by playing the admin role with the Chicago Marathon Facebook group. So those of you that are preparing for Chicago, you've got the resident expert here with us today, and she is also the admin for that page, which is a constant source of information. So you're giving back in so many ways. I can't remember how you phrased it in terms of your uncoupling from corporate America. I like the way you phrased it earlier in the conversation. But when you took that turn down a passion path, you've done it in a very impressive way. So thank you so much. And thanks for making some time for us today.
You got it. I can't wait to see you in person.